Howdy! This degree planner tutorial is designed to help you complete your degree planner assignment in Howdy and will provide you with a few things to think about as you're starting the process. You can access the degree planner through either the icon at the top of your Howdy or also by clicking on the My Record tab. If you click on the Degree Evaluation tab in the planner once you have it open, you should see these progress bars demonstrated on the right that show you how much coursework you have remaining. Anything in green represents classes that you've already completed or are currently enrolled in. Anything in red means that there are missing classes. By the time you finish planning things out, all or most of the planner should be in green and yellow. This tool allows you to organize your remaining coursework and receive feedback on your planned semesters from advisors. Please note that you need to specify a semester for each and every class that you have to take between now and graduation. For example, if you're in the Degree Evaluation tab of the planner and have expanded on one of the categories, such as the major coursework area, you'll see something that looks similar to this. You'll need to specify what semester you plan to take any class that has a red no beside it. Something else to keep in mind here as you're filling things out. First of all, don't forget to add your directed AGEC electives. If you look at the section of the planner, it says to be selected in consultation with an advisor. And again, this is correct. This is something that you'll want to talk to your advisor about because this is a place where you could work in internship or study abroad or minors or things like that. And that's something that you can do during an appointment. For the sake of completing the degree planner assignment, you just need to plug in any AGEC class that's not already spelled out by number on the degree. So for example, if you look here, you can see AGEC 105, AGEC 217. These are classes that are specifically spelled out on this list by number. But the directed AGEC elective area is where you can choose any course that you're interested in. So go ahead and add those for now, but just make sure that you've made an advising appointment at some point, just to make sure that you are selecting the classes that are going to help you get where you want to be in life and have worked in all your interests, things like that. Something else that can be helpful here when you're starting to fill out the planner is start planning around the prereqs for AGEC 317, but you'll want to make sure that you don't put Stat 303 and Econ 323 in the same semester. These classes tend to be fairly difficult for most students, and so it's just a really good idea if you can make sure that you split those up into different semesters as much as possible. The other thing to know here is the difference between the non-AGEC electives versus the directed AGEC electives. And the key thing to focus on here is the word non. So these classes are from a specific list in the handbook based on your specific concentration, but they're not going to be AGEC classes. So this is where the term non-AGEC comes from. The directed AGEC electives must be AGEC classes or some very specific financial planning classes with the AGLS prefix. If you're confused on what counts for these areas, be sure to reference the Terms and Definitions page of the AGEC handbook because that will tell you exactly what you need to take for these areas. So as an AGEC student, one of the best things that you can do here is think about planning things backwards. You want to make sure that you have your final classes set up first so that we know that we're on the correct rate of progress to end up in the semester that we want when we're planning graduation. So let's say, for example, if we have classes like AGEC 432 or 447 or 448, these classes all require AGEC 317 as a prereq, so we need to make sure that that class is happening first. So we go in here and say, okay, well, if we've got AGEC 317 for the semester before that, we know that whatever semester we have AGEC 317, that's going to be at least 2 semesters away from graduation at that particular point. And again, AGEC 317 has a lot of prerequisites, 2 of which are Econ 323 and Statistics 303. And we really don't want those happening in the same semester if we can help it, just because they tend to be fairly difficult classes. So we could say, okay, well, by the time we take Stat 303, if we're doing that right before we do 317, we know that we're at least 3 semesters away from being able to graduate whenever we take that class. And the same thing goes, you know, we're just working backwards. So we say, okay, whenever semester we're taking the AGEC 217, we're taking Econ 323, we know that we're at least 4 semesters away from being able to graduate at that point at a minimum. And AGEC 217 also has a lot of prerequisites here. So again, this is just to kind of help you block things out. It may not be that you're taking these classes in exactly these same breakdowns, but again, a good rule of thumb is to make sure that AGEC 317 is happening in the semester before your final semester coursework. One of the best resources as you work on your degree planner is the AGEC Student Handbook. This is available online if you Google TAMU AGEC Handbook, and it will have 3 main areas that will be helpful for you. There's a section on the AGEC degree itself with sample semester by semester breakdowns, a degree planner tips page, and there's also a section that will talk about terms and definitions to help you know what counts for each of the different areas of the degree. I do recommend reading through the entire book at some point, though, to help make sure that you're familiar with everything about your degree, but these are the main ones that are going to be useful for you at this stage. When it comes to choosing your core classes, it's important to know that not every science class is a core science, not every history class is a core history. To know what counts for these areas of the degree, you can search TAMU Core Curriculum and look at the section that is a part of catalog.tamu.edu. Other things you'll want to look at is how you plan to work in your ICD and CD requirements. ICD stands for International and Cultural Diversity, while CD stands for Cultural Discourse. Basically, by the time you graduate, one class needs to have an approved international attribute, and one needs to have a thought-provoking discussion that's associated with it. If you don't select at least one class with each of these approved attributes within what you already have to do for the degree, you then have to add additional classes on top of the 120 hours to meet your requirement. So it's a lot more efficient to work these in through something like your core classes. Something else you'll want to think about here is if you have not completed your foreign language requirement at the high school level, you want to make sure that you're planning in those classes here as well. As a reminder, while it's an official assignment, the planner is an unofficial tool and it doesn't always put planned or completed classes in the correct area. Something that you have to pay attention to when filling the degree planner out is whether or not you're needing any adjustments. An adjustment happens when a class that you've taken or are taking meets a degree requirement, but it might need to be moved to that category by your academic advisor. There's sometimes reasons why we can't do this immediately, so if you see classes that you've already taken or have been told will count sitting in the Work Not Applied area of the degree planner, this means that there might be areas that you don't need to plan classes for. So when in doubt, be sure to ask your academic advisor, or you can put a question in the comments section about this. Since AGEC has a fewer number of elective spaces compared to other degrees, I do highly recommend looking at minors and certificates when you're setting up your degree planner. So first of all, think of your major as kind of your primary area of study, but if you have outside interest or things that you want to gain additional expertise in, this is where minors and certificates can be very beneficial. So for a minor, think about this as a smaller subset of coursework with a specific focus. So it shows that you have expertise in a specific area. This becomes a part of your record and it shows on your transcript, but not on your diploma. A certificate is almost like a mini minor. Typically it's shorter in terms of the number of hours you have to complete. That's not always the case, but typically that is true. It can be either a standalone, major dependent, or degree dependent, but this is where most likely you will get a separate diploma for that specific certificate. But the reason that you'll want to start thinking about this now is, aside from just the electives, you also have some minors and certificates that have to be declared before you reach a certain number of hours. So it's very important to look at this early just to see if there's something that you might be interested in working into your degree at some point. One of the great things as an AGEC student is that you have a lot more electives to work with compared to some of the other degree options within the department. So let's say, for example, that you're an AGEC finance and real estate student. These areas that are circled in red are where you can potentially work in minor coursework, study abroad, internship, just different things that you're interested in. And there's certain game rules for each of these categories. But let's say, for example, we were interested in adding a minor in agri-food sales. When you're setting up your planner, you could say, well, you know what, when I plan my general electives, I'm going to put AGEC 216 as one of those planned general electives, so that way I'm checking off a box for the degree, a box for the minor at the same time. If you are looking at any of the different concentrations, whether you're finance and real estate, whether you're food marketing systems, whatever the option is, you have 9 hours of something called a directed AGEC elective, where you get to pick any AGEC class that's not already required for your degree. So again, this is a place where you can choose random classes that you're interested in, or you could say, well, you know what, I'm going to plug in AGEC 315, AGEC 316, and AGEC 416 for those particular areas. So again, we're working in the minor coursework as much as possible here. And then when you look at the sales minor courses for 314 and 340, these are already required for your degree, no questions asked. so that whole minor can be worked into your plan without adding any time to graduation. Students can do up to 2 minors. So another one that's really close is the econ minor, which all of these 3 classes that are put in the black font, these are ones that are already required for the degree that you're going to be taking anyway. And then the only thing left for that particular minor is 6 hours of coursework at the 300 to 400 level. And so the 311 class is actually accepted as a substitute for AGEC 430, so you say, okay, I'm going to plug that class in there, and then the other course could go for one of the other areas that accepts minor classes, and you'd still have space potentially to work in study abroad or internship. So again, the options are very wide open. It just kind of depends on what your interests are for everything, and this is where it's a really good idea to go through that minors and certificates list, see what interests you, and visit with your academic advisor just to see what might be the things that you're wanting to work into your degree. So in terms of a few frequently asked questions that I get from students, some people will ask, well, what if I just throw a few random classes on and hit submit? I mean, I did the assignment. Well, if your planner is so off track that we can't answer the corrections within 2 to 3 sentences for things, you will typically get your planner declined and then you have to refill it out again. Since there can be a lot of planners in line ahead of yours for approval, you really want to make sure that you don't do this, because if you wait until too late, you might end up missing your pre-registration slot because your planner didn't get approved in time to get that hold removed before pre-registration started. So again, you want to make this as close as possible to what you think you want to do and as accurate as possible. Some people ask, well, what if I'm planning to take classes at an outside institution? That's perfectly fine. You will want to check with your academic advisor to make sure that you're planning correct classes at the outside institution, but for the sake of the planner, you just need to go to the Edit Plan tab and select the little transfer box next to those courses that you're planning to take elsewhere. In terms of the planner, things are not set in stone. You can change what semesters you want to take classes in, but it is a good idea to check with your academic advisor to make sure that you're not moving around prerequisites into the incorrect order, and by moving these classes, you're now off track for graduation by your planned date if you changed what semester the class was in. Some people also ask, well, what happens if I find another class option that I like and I want to trade out things on my degree planner? Again, definitely visit with your academic advisor and check and see, but the planner is not set in stone, and adding these classes to the planner doesn't even guarantee enrollment in the courses. What we're just saying is we're coming up with a theoretical plan that will get us to graduation by our planned date. So don't stress about this. We're just trying to make it, again, as close as possible to what we think we want to do. We can change it later. Sometimes people will ask, well, I put a course on my degree planner, but now I can't get into it. It's been approved. What's the problem? Again, this is just a plan, so make sure that you are not counting too much on some of the classes that you're putting in here. We are going to hopefully get into all of those classes, but sometimes a class that you've been thinking about might be full in the semester that you planned it for. So you might just have to rearrange things in the later semester and say, okay, well, I originally had this class for spring of 2025, but now I'm going to move it to fall of 2025 because it was full in the semester that I planned it for. Degree planner holds are not approved immediately on submission, so this is something, again, that you want to do early. It can take 2 to 4 weeks for a planner to be approved depending on how late you're submitting it and how many planners are in line ahead of yours. So again, make sure that you get this done in a timely manner just so that you don't run into any issues with registration or things like that. Once your degree planner has been approved, you'll get feedback with suggested changes for your degree plan from your advisor. So be sure to read all of the comments, because again, just with the planner being approved, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect as it stands. Once you've made the changes that were suggested, you don't have to resubmit your degree plan immediately for approval. The planner is an annual assignment, so you will have to submit it at least once a year. But if you've already gone through the approval process once for that term, you don't have to resubmit it, and you can just make an advising appointment to bring it in and discuss any changes or feedback that you want. If you've done a really, really good job with filling out the planner, sometimes the degree planner will let you have the chance to self-approve. This is a great option because it means that the hold gets removed immediately for your account. It doesn't have to go to an advisor for review. But as mentioned earlier, sometimes the planner doesn't put courses in the right spot. So even if you get the option to self-approve, it's still a really good idea to make sure that you visited with your academic advisor just to make sure that everything is on track. So your last checklist that you want to think about here as you're filling out the degree planner is, look at the prereq check tab before you submit. This will flag any classes that you've planned in the incorrect order, and then you can go in and check and make sure that everything is correct. You'll also want to check the Edit Plan tab and make sure that you've clicked the box next to your Writing Intensive courses and selected UWRT, which stands for Writing Intensive. For this degree, this is going to be for AGEC 117 and AGEC 429. Something else that can be helpful before you submit is make sure that you've included any comments. So for example, if you are thinking about adding a specific minor, or if you have classes that you've taken at an outside institution and the credits haven't been sent to A&M yet, anything that you want your advisor to be aware of, be sure to include that in the comment section. It just helps us have a little bit more context for everything. And also, most important, remember to click submit. Just filling out the classes on the degree planner doesn't put it in our queue for approval, so you have to actually hit submit for it to go to an academic advisor so that we can go through the process to get that hold approved and cleared.